Typically, I always find that when you do stuff like this and you publicly testify to other people, it's stickier. I've had many things happen in my life just because I shared it with somebody else, so appreciate you doing that. The other thing is, if you're on social media and you want to share anything that we're doing tonight, throw it out on social media. Don't be bashful, because we don't care that we want people to know that what we're doing here. So let's talk about Duke Heller. Before tonight, I was trying to remember how I met Duke Heller because it was pre-COVID, and it finally hit me tonight when my friend Sam Kuhn walked in. And Sam, who I went through the Prime Movers program with, reminded me that it was the introduction from Sam as to how I met Duke. And Sam was saying that he's never sent anybody to Duke that Duke wouldn't meet with. So I was just another one of those people that he was willing to give me his time. And I remember Duke, we had lunch. The restaurant is no longer there, but it's at the corner of 23 and 270 there in Worthington. I remember, I think it was like sometime around Christmas, and I remember walking away just going, wow, that man really challenged me and made me think. Duke, you may already know a lot of this, but Duke was a pioneer in the dental implant world. And became a follower of Jesus fairly early in his life. And so he's not only been in the dentistry field, but he's been out there just walking the walk and talking the talk. And when I thought about having this event, and I thought, who could I get? The first person that popped into my mind was Duke Heller, and I got together with him, and Duke was gracious enough to come here tonight and share with us. So let's give a round of applause to my good friend Duke Heller. All right, and this is in no particular order, so I don't know how this is going to go, but it's going to be fun. So, all right, Duke, let's start with the obvious question. What inspired you to write your book, Helping Men Finish Well at Any Age, and was there a defining moment that sparked this project?
Well, thanks for the question. Yes, I was married 60 years. My wife went home to be with the Lord about 6.8 months ago. And tell you the truth, man, I just lonely as could be. And unfortunately, I got the vaccine, which I used to power walk an hour a day. I lifted weights probably for 50 years. And I'm telling you, 3 weeks after I got that vaccine, I ended up in Cleveland Clinic, had 5 cardioversions, now got an ablation, that vaccine. I think Satan tried to destroy me. So I fight through every day. I just don't quit. I'm going to go sliding into the grave sideways. So the defining thing was, this happens to be the third book that I've written. The second one, my mentor Zig Ziglar, 7 years he tried to get me to write this book. I said, Ziggy, I can't write it. I got too much to do. So finally he called up the office and he said, Duke, or he talked to my business manager, tell Dr. Heller the first chapter is due on my desk in 30 days. I won't talk to him, tell him not to call. So guess what? In 30 days I had first chapter. So that got published in 2005, and God's allowed us to give away over 15,000 of those books. But the defining moment, I was so lonely. I'm involved in 8 men's Bible studies because I got to keep busy. I was invited to speak north of Mansfield, Little Baptist Church. I mean, that church could not have had more than 45 people. I'm going to say there were 15, 16 men. Every single one of them had on rubber boots with straps, and they got cow dung all over their shoes. They just got through milking the cows. So they came in, man, did they love Jesus. And the pastor said, well, thanks for coming, and we appreciate it. I'm sorry that you lost your wife. Do you know why? She went home to be with the Lord and you're still here. I said, what? Oh, he said, I can tell you exactly. I said, Pastor, you don't even know me. No, I can tell you exactly. What do you mean you can tell me exactly? He said, well, go to Philippians 1:23. I'm torn, for it's much better to be with Christ than to be here. Now read verse 24. But for your sake, I'm to stay here. Who's the your sake? I said, well, I assume it's other Christians. That's right. Now go invest your life in other Christians. So in my profession, I have a lot of men that they would get this wad of cash, buy a house in Florida. And about right at COVID, most of them were kind of looking for someplace to go, and we'd go to lunch, and they say, Duke, I really screwed up. I can't believe I went to Florida. We were there 12, 15 years. My wife's health is failing. We're back for a support system. And that's our wife or my kids and grandkids. Duke, I never saw my grandson play basketball. I'm going to go to his wedding in 2 weeks. I've never met his fiance. How could I miss it? And men, I promise you, that is an answer that's given a lot. So when I started analyzing that, I really started thinking about, and I want to tell you, I got a lot of dirty underwear. 38 years, I was an elder at Grace Brother. Men, for 30 years, I was in the works mode. I felt if I teach Sunday school, if I go to Sunday school, if I go to church, go to Sunday night, go to midweek service, elders on Monday night, when Thursday was my night out, Friday was college and career. 30 years, I wanted to find favor with God. Maybe he'd bless my family. And as I started reviewing it, I thought, Duke, it's grace that gave you all that. You need to tell people you are a failure for 30 years. Not so much in God's eyes. Obviously, I was accepted. But I had the wrong slant. I needed to realize God could use me, but it wasn't for doing things to get recognition. And so I guess, Duke, it's time to go home.
We're on the timer system. He knows when he's supposed to stop.
Yeah,
No, I'm just kidding.
This is old man medicine.
I got a question for you, because now I know a lot of us older guys, we know who Zig Ziglar is. You younger guys, do you know who Zig Ziglar is? He was like the original motivational kind of guy. And my favorite quote from Zig was, and I'm going to try and do my Zig imitation, you can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. How's that?
That's it.
Good? Okay.
Yeah. The accent's not very good.
Okay, I tried.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to know, because I think there are people that are probably curious. How did Zig Ziglar become your mentor, and what was it like to be in the presence of the great Zig Ziglar?
Well, I was fortunate. I read Zig's book, See You at the Top, and I was teaching in 8 different dental schools, teaching somebody to teach the faculty. So part of my criteria was you have to be positive with patients or with the staff that you work with at the university, at the dental school. And so I quoted a lot of things, and one of his greatest quotes that I use at least weekly, failure is an event, it's not a person. See, we fail at marriage, or we fail, you lose a football game or whatever it is. See, that has nothing to do with how much I love my wife. Has nothing to do with how much I love my kids. So Ziggy, I had an opportunity. He spoke down in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And I waited, Mike, until the end of the line. So I'm the last guy to go up, and I got a couple more books. And I said, Mr. Ziglar, you're going to be in Columbus in about 6 months. Can I meet you? He said, well, give me a call, make sure nobody's picking me up. And so I did. I called and talked to Lori, and she said, well, here are you asking? And so he said, nope, nobody's picked me up. I said, I'm picking you up. I picked him up at 10:30, got him a hotel at 11. We went down to eat, and 4:35 that afternoon we left. We knew some people in common. We both came to know Jesus in 1972, and we did ministry together. We put on golf tournaments, 15 non-Christians, 15 Christians. So Ziggy would talk on Wednesday night about using God in business. Then I have a presentation on a non-threatening way to share Christ. I did that Thursday morning. He talked Thursday night. Friday morning I did Letters from Dad. And we never, ever were together. We didn't lead somebody to Christ. So Zig became my mentor. I asked him to do it. I knew him 28 years. He was my mentor 20. He said, well, there's a couple stipulations, Mike. He said, number one, you must start 4 books a month and finish 2. I said, Ziggy, I'm practicing, I'm traveling. He said, well, I don't have to be your mentor. I said, oh, okay. Well, I don't think I ever finished 2, but I probably did 2.8. But you know, men, what it helped me do, and he prescribed the books. I know a lot about this deep, but I can carry on a conversation almost any subject because he made me do that. The other thing is, Duke, you've got to have an accountability partner. You've got to have another man that knows all your dirty underwear, and you go back and forth. You tell him everything that's on your heart. And so there are 8 questions, and if any of you want them, I'll send them to you. But Ziggy said, Duke, you cannot have integrity without accountability. And I believe that with all my heart. And I've just had too many men in my life. Fortunately, most of them, we have a great relationship. And some just say, you know, Duke, I don't want you to know if I'm lusting after women. Well, men, that's the downfall. And so I would say it was the accountability. And
Yeah.
the thing I also love, Mike, he never pulled any punches. I'd tell him, like when I told him I was going to start an institute for implant dentistry, but my goal was to share Jesus Christ. And I told him what I was going to do. And he said, well, let's start at the top. We're going to put Christ first, then we're going to teach implant dentistry. So I started all of my lectures with, I'm in full-time ministry. I just do it as a dentist. And I hope God called you to be a dentist. So Ziggy was a wonderful mentor.
Awesome. Go back and when did you come to know Jesus? And like, what was that moment like? And when did it happen?
Well, probably most of you haven't heard this, so let me share it with you. Patient said to me, Dr. Heller, are you a Christian? I said, oh, yeah. I said, how long have you been one? I said, all my life. I said, you ain't one. I said, pardon me? He said, can you point to the exact time you accepted Christ? I said, Mr. Wood, you don't understand. I'm the dentist for the Methodist Children's Home. I'm the dentist for the High State Athletic Department. I'm on the building committee, and I work a day a month in the free dental clinic. He said, Dr. Heller, I didn't ask you what you did. I asked you, can you point to the exact time you accepted Christ? I said, Mr. Wood, I don't even know what you're asking me. He said, well, Dr. Heller, don't take this the wrong way. You are what we would call a Christian fake. I said, what? I went over and got the hygienist. I said, get that kook out of my office. But you know, man, I couldn't get that out of my mind. I'd be jogging and I was thinking, what if I got to be 55 and my ladder's leaning against the wrong wall? What if I don't have enough information to make the right decision? So I was jogging, came home, and I said to my wife, Wanda, I said, honey, they must have had a wedding up there tonight. She said, well, why would you say that? I said, well, parking lot's filled and it's Wednesday night. She said, oh no, that's midweek service. I said, you tell me people go to church in the middle of the week? She said, yes. Now, unbeknownst to me, Wanda went to a different Methodist church in Newcomerstown than I did. And she accepted Christ at a Good News Club at age 10. I never heard the gospel. I went on the other side of the tracks. So I said, well, let's go up there. Well, Mike, we went up. Pastor Jim Custer started his sermon this way. If you have a teenage daughter and she's killed in an automobile accident, are you 100% sure where your daughter is? Man, I looked at one and I thought, what have we got ourselves into? Well, his sermon, he was directing everything, just like he had me pointed. And at the end, he said, if you don't know where your daughter would be, there's a good chance you don't know where you would be. You need to come forward and give your life to Jesus. I'd never heard of Billy Graham. I never saw an invitation. I stood up, beat the knees, went down. Associate pastor came. He looked at me. I looked at him. I didn't know what to say to this guy. He said, oh, there's an area of your life you want to turn over to God. I said, yeah, that's it. So we go in the back. Now, your name again? I said, Duke Hellerwood Duke. How long have you known the Lord? I said, all my life. He said, what? You've never done it, have you? I said, I guess not. What do I have to do? Admit you're a sinner, ask Christ to forgive you, ask to become Lord of your life. I did that, Mike. That was the week before Easter, 1972, and I really got vaccinated. My 3 best friends, within 7 days, I took them to breakfast or lunch and said, listen, sucker, you're a sinner. We done it together. You need Jesus Christ. Well, they started calling me the village priest. But due to my profession, I had 200 doctors that referred to me because nobody knew anything about dental implants and patients needed. I started systematically taking them to breakfast or lunch. They thought I wanted to talk about dental implants. I want to talk about Jesus. Going to be a lot of dentists in heaven. Yeah, so that's...
I love it. I love it. So speaking of community, we know that you are involved in multiple Bible studies every week. How has that helped you and others stay on track to finish well?
I think because I'm lonely and I'm an energetic guy, I'm in 8 men's Bible studies. I bump into 173 men a week, which gives me an opportunity to invest in them, whether they want to talk about their marriage or, almost anything. Mostly they want to know how to share Christ with blood relatives, and so I'm able to help them with that. And let me just put one thing out there I would like to tell the group of men. About, I don't know, a year ago, I was doing a men's Bible conference down in Lake Hope for Iron Sharpens Iron, and I was leaving. One of the guys said, Doc, can you shorten up the gospel so we could talk to our son-in-laws, our father-in-laws, somebody at the post office? Is there anything? I said, oh yeah, there's 2 sentences. So you can share the gospel with 2 sentences, and it's non-threatening. Well, what is it? Number 1, can I ask you a personal question? And people always say yeah, never had anybody say no. Number 2, can you point to the exact time you accepted Jesus as your Savior? I'm telling you, men, it's so easy to do. I have probably about 60 men now that do it every day of the week. You can do it at the post office. You could do it filling up at the gas tank. You just try it. It is so easy to share Jesus. I have one man in Cleveland that last week led 3 people to Christ at Planet Fitness, and he didn't know any of them. Just by saying, hey, I like your shirt. Yeah, how often you been here? Can I ask you a personal question? Boom. And people say, you know, I've been thinking about that. So I like to insert that.
I like it. So you had mentioned earlier that your work, you used your work in the dental profession as your ministry. So we probably have a lot of guys here tonight that are in the marketplace and various places in the workforce. What advice do you have for them as far as navigating those environments.
Thank you. Well, first of all, whatever you do, you're in full-time ministry. It's nice that many people in this room share their faith frequently, but we're never going to know who you know at work. You know, God's got you where he wants you there. And I have many men that come to me and say, I just hate my job. I can't believe God's got me sitting there. And of course I listened to him, and I learned this from Ziggy. He'd say, well, they do pay health insurance, right? Well, yeah. Are you happy with the salary? Well, yeah. You have a roof over? Yeah. Well, you get them thinking. They say, yeah, but I don't like my boss. I don't like the people I'm with. I said, wait, can I ask you something? Well, yeah. How many of those people have you shared Jesus with? Well, none of them. We're not allowed to talk about religion in our business. I said, what? How long have you been there? 33 years. And you've not shared Jesus? Nope, because we're told we want to do it. What can I do? I said, oh, man, that is so easy. If you form people, F-O-R-M, talk about their family, talk about their occupation, their recreation, and their motivation. If you get questions from them, the next thing they are going to tell you is they're concerned about their son that a dog bit him. They're concerned about health issues with their mother. It's so simple. Here are the words to use. With your permission, may I pray for your son that got the dog bite? What do you think he's going to say? Oh, well, yeah. So when I come in 3 days later, I said, I've been praying for your son. How's he doing? Say, would you like to catch lunch sometime? So you can take it out of the office. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever will keep you from making prayer requests. So
it's very interesting because in our business we keep a prayer list, and we are proactively looking for opportunities to pray for people and follow up with them. And I've always been fascinated. No one has turned us down yet. So we're batting 1,000. I was talking earlier about a lot of struggles out there for men, and it's being written about. It's in the statistics. What do you think? What cultural pressures make it harder for men to finish well today compared to maybe previous generations?
Yes. It really, man, it's, I had the privilege of doing a men's retreat. Tom Akas and I and some others in this room were there. And this little black box, unfortunately, your grandkids at age 6 or 7 can get a hold of it. And I think Satan is there. I hope you men realize 67% of all devoted Christian men, these are people who can point to time they accepted Christ, their elders, their deacon, 60-some% look at pornography once a week. Pastors, 52% of them look at it once a month. That box, we need to have an avenue where men can go. I have no doubt there are men in this room that are struggling with pornography. Nobody knows it because they don't have an accountability partner. And we are going to start a podcast where we can get men involved in different ministries. And one of them is going to be secretly, if they know they can go to a place, there's a series called Conquer Series that really helps that, Mike. And so I think that the culture is one of the things, you see, we don't talk to our grandkids enough. So tell me how do you avoid pornography on that thing? Oh, Poppy, I don't have a problem. I said, well, you see, well, yeah, I did. Well, let's talk about it. See, as a grandfather, it's actually probably easier for me with my grandkids. My great-grandkids, the oldest is 10. But I think our culture is designed to take our children to hell. And I've realized that men just would like to have somebody to talk to. So in all those men in those Bible studies, weekly, people say, Dude, can we go? I'm really struggling in this area. And so I think I'm able to help them. And I have 4 accountability partners. And every man in this room struggles with your eyes. People say, well, no, it's not a big problem. You're lying. Because we all look at women's anatomy, right? And so the question is, have you lusted after a woman other than your wife? Here's the definition of lust. This beautiful girl is singing Amazing Grace, turned sideways, and the outline of her bosom, I want to go, and what I've got to do is I've got to look away. That was temptation. If I look back, that is lusting. Now you can say, yeah, I do it and I feel bad. I ask Jesus to forgive me, and he will. Now listen to me. Satan's going to beat the crap out of you. Why? Because he says, here you are, leading this ministry. You're doing it. What a craphead you are. You're lusting after women. Yeah, Jesus forgave you, but you won't forgive yourself because you feel awful. You've got to have an accountability partner. As it says in James, confess your sins one to another. The minute I tell my accountability partner, in 7 days, I failed twice last week. And I tell him where I failed. I'm telling you, men, I used to, before I had accountability, Satan just beat the crap out of me. Here I was an elder. I got a wife that's very active in the church. All the kids are involved. And I am lusting my bloody head off. The minute I got an accountability partner, it went away. Because I'm telling him about lusting.
Yeah. You kind of answered this question, but obviously your journey has not been straight up to the right. So how have you handled things when you've struggled to stay on the path to finishing well?
Thank you, Mike. Good question. Philippians 4:6-8. Be anxious for nothing, and in everything through prayer and supplication. Listen to the next word. With thanksgiving. Let your requests be known to the Lord, and the peace of God will overcome you. See, it's hard to thank God for taking your wife home after 60 years. That verse says I have to do that. Was it hard? Absolutely, it was hard. But I thank God. I could not be sitting in front of you men, probably, if my wife is still living. Because I'd rather spend time with her than you old birds. But at the same time, be anxious for nothing. That means no thing. With prayer, do you pray about it? What's the word supplication mean? It's intensity. If somebody asks me to pray for their kid to get a good grade in English, or they pray about their wife who has cancer, the intensity is entirely different. Be anxious for nothing, everything with prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. So I think, Mike, if we can be thankful, we are all accountable in Ephesians 2:10 with every gift he gave you. He did not give me the gifts he gave you. You will never stand before Christ and be given crowns on my gifts.
Yeah.
Only you will do that. You're not in competition with your wife, your kids, with anybody in this audience. Whatever he gave you, Mike, you'll stand before Jesus. And he say, Micah, the gifts I gave you, now what'd you do with them?
Yeah.
So we ought to seek crowns. There's 5 of them there. And the Bema Seat judgment, the crowns you used, the gifts you used, you get crowns for them. Why wouldn't you want to do that? People say, I just want to be in the back row of heaven. I said, what? Why would you want to be in the back row? Do you know how many times you would have disappointed Jesus? Just to get in the door? If in fact there is a hierarchy in heaven, wouldn't you rather rule a city than a street? You're going to be there for eternity. Just use the gifts God gave us.
Nice. It's interesting. You're talking about rewards. Somebody brought Bruce Wilkinson to town. I think it was Dwight Montgomery brought him here some years ago. And he wrote Prayer of Jabez, but he wrote one of his little books called A Life That God Rewards. And they did all this research into the scripture and kind of made me believe that through the scripture that we will be rewarded and there will be a pecking order in heaven. And I never had really thought about it like that.
Right, yeah.
Something that it's kind of like when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. Something that has just been coming at me in waves is the whole concept of prayer. I can't be the only one in here that feels like I'm not very good at prayer. I just feel very inadequate. And so I'm really starting to lean hard into having a more robust prayer life. So I think a lot of us struggle. Tell us about your prayer life and what advice would you give for the guys tonight?
Men, this is so important. 6 years ago, I guess when I decided, I started collecting material for 4 years. And I knew an area that was so difficult the men I would meet with was prayer. Because they would pray on Monday and then it gets to be Wednesday and they'd say, oh, haven't prayed. Well, they don't have a template. So the men's retreat that we had, I spent about an hour, and I hope all of you, we're going to have another one in the spring and maybe you could attend it. But we teach the men, there were about 3 or 4 areas. Number one, what do you do with an emergency prayer? In other words, if Sam comes up and said, Duke, I need you to pray for my grandson. This is really serious. He may not make it. That's an emergency prayer. Men, I go, I put down Sam, I put down his grandson's name, then I color code it in green. If you ask me tonight and ask me to look at, you're going to see a bunch of green there. Every single day. Green. I have 13 prayer requests that are emergencies. One is my grandson and his wife, they want to get pregnant. They've been struggling for months. I can honestly text them every day, praying. So emergency prayer requests, because see, if you ask me to pray and then I see you a week later and I don't bring it up, Mike, you know that I was just spitting in the ocean, see if the tide would go up, trying to make you feel good. Yeah, I'll pray for you. But I didn't. If I put it here, Mike, I'm praying for you. Yeah. Also, we give a list, and if anybody wants it, I'll send you the whole outline of a prayer, let me call it a template. So I've been doing this for 40 years. So the missionaries that I pray for, I do it on Wednesday. And I have quite a list now, as you can imagine. But when our missionaries come home, how many of us say, hey, been praying for you? And then you're off sitting in the pew. You haven't been praying for them. You prayed for them just before you saw them on the stage. Did you pray for them last Monday or Thursday? No, you didn't. But if you have a list, so not only do I pray for the missionary, his wife, I pray for each one of their kids. I want to know. So every 3 or 4 months, there's men in this room that I've been praying for you over 20 years. And every 3 or 4 months, I send them back to you. I say, this is what I've been praying. Please update your prayer requests. So they do. I find out about the grandkids. I find out about cancer, So it's a great way. I have non-Christians on there I've been praying for 20 years. Let me just tell you an example. I am one of the pioneers and one of the leaders in implant dentistry. And we had a meeting in Phoenix, and there were about 1,200 dentists there. It's an organization of about 5,000. The number one presenter, and the crowd, the place was just packed. He does a lot of technology, but he's got using AI, and so he's really done some wonderful things. So he starts out and he thanked, I'm the only pioneer left. We lost a guy last year at 91. I'm 88, so I'll be going soon. But he kind of edified me. He said, but I got to tell you something. Duke Heller totally changed my life. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. And he said, I just finished his book, and I want to tell you, when he says you must invest your life in the people who are sitting in the front row of your funeral, I finished that book. I sat down with my wife. Now he's looking at hundreds and hundreds of people in the audience. He said, I had it wrong. I've had it wrong for 30 years. I put you people ahead of my family. It's over. I probably won't be here next year. My wife and I sat down and we said, this is it. We're drawing a line in the sand. I'm canceling all these speaking engagements. I'm going to spend time with my wife, my kids, and my grandkids. Now, I'll tell you one more. A guy got the highest award, and he's actually from India. He's been in the United States for a long time, and I've lectured a lot with him in India and Abu Dhabi and Kuwait. But he's getting this award, and in the middle of it, he said, I have to stop right here. He said, you know, I'm of the Hindu faith, but Duke Heller, right there, for 26 years, he prayed for my wife, my kids. He knows my kids. He knows what school they're in. I can't believe I have a man that's prayed for me and my family for 26 years. I'm not saying that to boast, please don't take, but I'm telling you, you can change people's lives, Mike, if you will pray for them, use it as a witnessing tool.
Talk about this, and maybe some of you in here have heard Duke talk about this. He's got this thing called Letters
from Dad.
And I want him to share this because I'm hoping that many of us will execute this as we head into the holidays. Go for it.
Well, I hope you will, and I'd be happy to send you the videos. But it'd be great if you met here. You see, men, when we helping men finish well at any age, what if you don't make it home today? What will your wife and children hold in their hand that they will know you? And what about your great-grandkids you'll never meet? Will they know anything about you? Letters from Dad teaches you write letters of blessing to your children. I've watched families in the drug and alcohol abuse world. They haven't spoken in 10, 12 years. Letters from Dad brought those families back together. And so I'd be happy to send it to you and the thing, and it'd be a wonderful thing that this group...
Tell them what you do with your family every year. And
Yeah,
you got how many kids? You got 3 kids?
I have 3 kids and 9 living grandkids and 10 now great-grandkids. I don't write letters to the great-grandkids, but I have 16 letters every Christmas. They come to my house, they open up the packages. I now give them money because I don't know how to buy for all those kids. But they open up their presents, and you know, the great-grandkids make your day. And they say, okay, Poppy, can we do it now? I say, well, let's make sure we do that, da, da, da. Okay, go. They run to this table, it's got 16 letters. All my grandkids, my kids, they grab them and they go to different parts of my house. They read the letters when I would say, like, Carrie, thank you for what you did for your sister, Jenny. Having her come to your house after she had the back operation, thank you for doing that. It's a letter of blessing, not correction. Son, if you do this, you get farther ahead in life. No, this is a letter of blessing. Your great-grandchildren, I promise you, will read these letters. And why? Because women pass them down. Any of you that went to college and dated your wife, you sent letters back and forth. You don't have one of hers. She's got every one you wrote. And you think the great-grandkids are going to read the letters she wrote to you. These letters, after Wanda passed, about 2 years afterwards, my son said, "Dad, would you mind, could we pull out some of the letters you wrote to Mom?"
Ooh.
I said, "Why, we sure can." And they're in a box. Well, they pick them out now to have your children read the letter you wrote to your wife. I'm telling you, the tears stream down your face because you mentioned your children to your wife, how great it was that Rob did this or Jenny did that, or here we've got a grandson that called out that said, "Poppy, getting ready to pitch this game, and I need your prayers." See, those are things, men, we need to let people know that Jesus is the most important thing in our life. Charlie Kirk gave you men the opportunity to say Jesus in the public place. I'm telling you, I do it, well, it can be done every day. You go to go shopping or at Kroger's, and what do they always say? "You have a nice day." Do you think they care if you have a nice day? Because they always say it, right? So I say, "Oh, no. You make a good day. You can make it anything you want." I said, "Oh, well, that's pretty good." And I said, "If you got Jesus Christ in your life, you really can make it a good day." Now, how hard is that? In the post office, let's say there's 8 or 9 people. Well, I say, "How's your world?" People say, "What do you mean, how's your world?" Well, how's your world? What's God doing in your life? Well, they'll pipe up, and maybe the other person says, "Well, I'm a da-da-da." I say, "Can I ask you a personal question?" "Yeah." "Can you point to the exact time you accepted Christ?" Now there's 8 people standing in line. And this one lady said, "Well, no, I don't have to. I'm Catholic, and all Catholics go to heaven." I said, "Well, not really. Could I tell you what I think?" "Well, go ahead if you want." So you got to admit you're a sinner, ask Christ to forgive you, ask to become Lord of your life. I said, "So can you do that? Did you do it?" "Well, I'm sure I did at confirmation." "You did what?" "Well, what did you do?" If you stood right now before Jesus, he said, "What's the requirement?" What would you say? "Well, going through confirmation and being a good person." And the one lady down there said, "Nope, that's the wrong answer." So she goes up, I go up, I go outside, she's waiting for me. "What's this exact time thing?" I said, "Well, you got to have an exact time. Obviously, you know your birthday. You know when you got married." "Yeah." "Why don't you know the exact date you accept Christ?" "I don't need to. All Catholics go to heaven." With that, this other little girl comes out and said, "Can I give you a hug?" I said, "Well, yeah." She said, "That was great. Those people heard about Jesus." I said, "Can you point to a time?" She says, "I sure can," whatever it was, da, da, da. And I looked at the lady and I said, "She can do it, why can't you?" And she walked off. But it doesn't, man, it's so easy to share Jesus. It really is, right? That's my passion.
So good. So, consider letters. People know that I collect quotes and anecdotes. I was just thinking of one, which is a person's greatest emotional need is to feel appreciated. Think about if you write a letter to your spouse or your kids this holiday season and tell them you appreciate them. It's interesting. I was with my soon to be 85-year-old father for dinner last week, and I saw a reel from Denzel Washington. He said, "Take this to your dad and have him answer these questions. And I gave it to my dad, and I said, when we go out, my brother's sitting over here, he didn't even know about it. I said, when we go out to dinner for your birthdays, I want you to have answers to these questions for all three kids. And one was, what is your happiest memory of us? What were the first few days of fatherhood like with me? What do you want or wish most for your kids? What was the moment you most felt proud of me? What's the nicest thing I've ever done for you? And what's the one thing you always want me to remember after you're gone? And I just think we gotta start asking those questions and really just connecting with the people around us, because we could be like the guy that passed away recently here in our church. Hopefully he had an opportunity to say all the things that he wanted to say, because it sounded like at his funeral he did, and he's in a better place now. You can just tell from being part of that funeral. All right, shifting kind of gears a little bit. So for anybody that's feeling isolated or disconnected, whether that be with their families or their children, their grandchildren, what advice would you give to them as far as a next step to get reconnected and maybe not feel so isolated?
Yeah, well, we have a friend that teaches that says that most men have 0.8 men friends. And one of the reasons is we don't say, hello, my name is. We go and we sit, we hear the sermon, we leave. So first thing, Mike, I would encourage people, form somebody. Hello, my name is Duke Keller. Tell me about your family. No, what about your wife? So F is family. Get to know that person. And occupation, what do they do? When you get outside, take notes on what they told you. The next Sunday, you're going to say, well, okay, you were going to have that business deal on Thursday, wasn't it? How'd it go? Immediately, you have a connection with somebody that's there. The second thing, Mike, I think we all must have an accountability partner. Yeah. You know why you don't pray, man? Because you don't have anybody question if you do it. I have to tell these accountability partners, I prayed every day, or I did 6 out of 7. And reading the Bible is the same thing. You say, no, I read the Bible. Well, I do. I read it on Sunday, and then if I get a chance, I read it on Wednesday. But, I'm a deacon, and I'm polishing somebody's shoes, and no, did you pray? See, it's just accountability. And I'll send you the accountability questions that you could send out to people.
We'll talk later about how you can get in contact with Duke. You had mentioned this earlier about, you write about investing in the people who sit in the front row of your funeral.
Right.
What does that look like in everyday life? And you may have already touched on a lot of that.
Well, I think Ziggy kept repeating that back to me over and over. Whenever I would go for 14, 15 days, I'd lecture in 4 countries, and I would get beat up and come home, and he said, well, how was it? How much did you share? And of course, I shared every place I think I went. And he said, remember, you're not going anywhere now for 2 months. I said, well, nope, not going. You're going to invest your life in the people sitting in the front row of your funeral. I never missed a son's baseball game, and he played in high school and college. I never missed a wrestling match, a soccer. Why? Because I'll never get to see that one. And I'd be invited, be a main speaker in dentistry, and I called and said, listen, I can't come. So what do you mean you can't come? I said, my son has a baseball game. Duke, it's just one game. Yeah, I know. But I'll never get a chance to see that. And if I'd have missed that game, I had to tell Ziggy that I missed that game. No, I'm telling you, I would have to. He said, Duke, those people are not as important as your son's baseball or your daughter's horse show. So it's a big deal to me, Mike.
Yeah.
To this day, I text my great-grandkids. I drive to Cleveland probably twice a month, and I go to football, basketball, baseball. I go up, bring them to Ohio State football games, and I really invest. To go fishing with grandkids and to have an 8-year-old boy catch a 3-pound catfish, there's nothing like it in the world.
Yeah.
That's a lot better than lecturing to 1,000 dentists. Right.
All right, one more question, then we're going to open it up for questions. Question is this. As we sit here tonight, what's one question men should ask themselves today to assess if they're on the right path?
Do I really know God? Ask yourself that, man. Zig made me tell him, and my time is 4 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon. I sit down in a chair, and all I do is sit there and say, okay, God, talk to me. Any thoughts come in, I drive them out. I sit there for 10 minutes once a week. Talk to me, God. And Zig always asks me, what God tell you? So I think all of us need to know God more, but when's the last time you and he just sat alone, that the world didn't interfere? So I guess I would suggest get to know God better, then invest your life in the people in the front row.
And one last question, which we got books back there that
Please take them.
that Duke has brought tonight. In the book, there's actually a picture of your wife's headstone and a picture of your headstone. So when it's all said and done here on this earth for Duke Heller, what's the legacy?
Yeah. My wife was Joy, Jesus other than you, and that's on our headstone. And mine is feared God, shared Christ. That will be on my headstone.
And that's your legacy.
That's my legacy.
Fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. Just fire away, anybody.